Hello everyone. This is my first attempt at making a guitar video. It's about my three Strats, and I'll give you a little bit of history of myself first. And I like telling stories, so that's why I'm making this video and seeing if anybody else is interested in this. And I've been in the music business or was in the music business for 30 years, and then I got out and I took about 5 years off, and after that I went back into playing music, but I didn't even touch guitars for 5 years. But it always comes back to haunt me. I just love guitars, and sometimes I think I would have been better being a builder than a player, or maybe both. But because I love customizing things, and it comes naturally. My dad was the same way, and he started a music store in the late 60s, and then I joined up with him in 1972 ish. I worked there for 4 years, all through high school, Saturdays especially, and then, of course, some nights and after schools every day. So that's where I got my liking for the guitar. And I've been around guitars. I've got pictures of myself with my dad's old Strats, and he was like me too. He couldn't leave anything stock, and at that time there was no such thing as custom shop. So we did our own work back then, and some of it was a little bit hacky, but it was still, really playable. Uh, and being in business, I would never say that I'm a great guitar player. I might be average, but it allowed me to experiment, and especially with pickup arrangements and stuff like that. So I got to see the whole spectrum of guitars change since 1972, for sure, and then to this date. And I remember when the first pedal we actually had in the music store was a Color Sound wah wah fuzz pedal, and that's what really turned me on to effects pedals. After that, I was hung up on pedals, and of course customizing guitars. So this first guitar I'm showing you is my first Strat, and it has quite a story behind it. It's now been painted plum crazy purple, which is the color that I got off of my favorite car of the time, which was the Cuda, or Challenger actually. The Challenger was my favorite of the two, but I liked both. And so I had it painted purple. But to begin with, I'll start the story back in 1972, because this guitar was actually a 1972 Strat. As you'll see by the serial number on the back, I still have the original plate on it, even though nothing else is stock on it. But this guitar started out as our first Stratocaster in our music store that was brand new. And back then they sold for $610 with the case, and it was a nice hard shell black case. Unfortunately, our music store was pretty small, and being in a small community too, we didn't think thieving was that bad, or theft. And unfortunately our store got broke into, and we only had one good Strat, one good Telecaster, one good Precision, and a couple other pretty decent guitars for high-end guitars. Everything else was low-end guitars. Anyhow, these guys stole everything, and what happened is they actually, it was almost winter, so it was pretty cold out, but somebody had seen them and was yelling at them, so they hadn't ran too far away from the music store, and they actually threw the guitars underneath cars and took off. So if you can think of that, or you think about that, a lot of those guitars had what I call road rash on them. And actually the cops, or the police I should say too, the police did see these guitars underneath there, so they waited them out, and they finally come back for them, and they caught them. So then these guitars were in the police station with fingerprint dust and everything else on them until the case could be settled. And that was well over a year. And my dad didn't hardly have enough money to bring in some new stock, but he did, because we were just getting started, and we started right from scratch. So anyhow, the guitar come back. It was black. It was all dented up from being thrown underneath the vehicle into the gravel and everything else. And he wasn't paying me a heck of a lot, because again, he was just starting. He couldn't afford much. But he asked me if I wanted that guitar, because he knew he'd lose a lot on it anyhow, and I said yes. So this guitar's been with me since 1972, and it's been through 3 paint jobs. It was, of course, black first, then it was candy apple red, and I still have pictures of it candy apple red, and it looked pretty nice. But then I wanted to put a Floyd Rose, of course, on it, and so then I routed it out, and a good friend of mine painted it, and he also, by then it needed a new set of frets in the neck, and he did all the fret work. He's amazing. I wish he still did guitars, because I'd have him doing them now for me. He did an amazing job, and there's stainless steel frets in here. So this guitar definitely is not stock, but being in the music business, this was kind of my test pilot. I would try every new pickup that came in, and they'd come in and out of this guitar. I've tried every humbucking you can think of. Now, the pickups that are in it now, the only one that I really truly like in this guitar is the humbucker. And again, it's probably about the 100th pickup that's been in this guitar. I've tried everything, and I had to route it out even bigger, because this is the pickup out of the original Lead 1 series guitars. And back then I had a Lead 1 as a backup guitar in case I broke a string. And every time I break a string and play that guitar, I liked the tone of it better than I liked anything else I had in my Strats. So I eventually put that in there, and it stayed there to this day. The other two, they probably will get changed eventually again, but I honestly hardly ever use those 2 pickups on this particular guitar. So that's my 72 Strat, and it will be willed to my son. So, because he's my number 1 son, I should say. Because I know it's not worth much to anybody else, but to me it's got a huge sentimental value, and I keep praying that I'll have grandkids or great-grandkids that will eventually play. Now, my second Strat that I did is a 1962 reissue from probably, I'm thinking, the 80s somewhere. And it's an interesting story behind this guitar too. Is what happened is I originally sold it to the fella brand new, and it was black also, and he thought he was a guitar tech and a really good player, but he basically hacked this guitar up so bad. He actually had 3 or 4 different pickups in it with half the pick guard missing. He thought he knew how to do frets. He ruined the frets in it. He actually gouged the fingerboard around the edges of the frets so badly that I knew the whole neck had to be done. Everything had to be done. Otherwise, I would have never touched a 62 reissue. It was a gorgeous guitar when it's new, but it would have been nice if it would have stayed stock. But because it had been chopped up so much, I decided he wanted to trade it off, and I knew I couldn't give him hardly nothing for it, because as it wasn't even playable. So I had it routed out, and again, I had another friend of mine who's an excellent painter. He painted it up for me, and again, this was another Chrysler color. It was emerald green, they called it, and I loved that color. So I had him paint it up, and he did a fantastic job. And of course, I put it's a Kaler Floyd Rose on it, and I really liked it because it was black and kind of matched really nice. And then the pickup arrangement, I still have the stock 62 reissue pickup in the front position right here. And then the second pickup is actually a DiMarzio stacked humbucking, so that's why I have the single coil switching on it for it. And then the humbucker in the back position is made by a company called Fury out of Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada, and it's called a ZP20. And at that time it was known as a zero pole pickup, which they had the hollow poles, and it was not supposed to be magnetic. And there was a few top rock bands from Canada using them at the time to help promote them, and I just really liked the pickup, so I kept it in there. So it'll probably stay in there for good too. And I had to have the neck completely re-radiused. I honestly don't even know what it is, but he set it up. He radiused it to be feel and set up to the Floyd Rose better. Plus, it has stainless steel frets. Both these Strats have stainless steel frets. And I am amazed because I've been using both of these guitars for well over 30 years since the frets have been done in them. And neither of them hardly show any wear. So I'm a big believer in stainless steel frets for sure. And even the back of these necks, like, I keep pretty good care of my stuff, but you'll see this serial number on here is one of the vintage reissue serial numbers. So this is also a good record for me, keeping track of my guitars if anything happens to them. And because this is my second, if you want to call it, customized guitar, this will go to my second son when I leave this world. But for now, honestly, this is my absolute favorite guitar to play. There's just something about that neck. All three of these Strats have beautiful necks on them, but if I had to only keep one, it would be this one. This one has an amazing neck on it for my liking. Some guys might find it a little bit small, because it definitely is the smallest of the three. But with those stainless steel frets, it almost feels like you're playing on a guitar that's been scalped. It's just so easy to bend and play on. And I love the wood in this neck too. It's a beautiful neck. And I never changed the machine heads. They're getting kind of crusty looking, but I really it doesn't really matter because it has the Floyd Rose, so I didn't see any intention or reason for changing them. Just a beautiful guitar. And again, not one that I would normally customize or cut up because it was an expensive guitar in its day. Like, I believe that even when it was sold brand new, it was $2,000 back then, which is a lot of money now. Now this next Stratocaster, my blue one, which I am in love with the paint job. This has got to be my absolute favorite paint job, and this is a stock paint job. This guitar is totally stock, and there's not one thing on it that I'd want to change. I didn't actually buy it new, even though it's basically brand new. I ran into another fellow guitar player that really wanted a Gretsch, and I had a Gretsch that I was hardly playing, and it was a nice Gretsch. It was worth, list price was somewhere around $3,000 Canadian. So we made a swap, and he got what he wanted and I got what I wanted. And I have to tell you, I never was much for noiseless single coil pickups, but these ones I definitely can live with. I really do like them. I like the switching in it. I like the tremolo. I really like hopefully you noticed it, it's got a different type of truss rod adjustment on it. I forget what they call it, some kind of barrel or something, but it just adjusts at the bottom of the neck, and it's so accessible. It's just a great unit. And if you notice, the tone controls are same, but the volume control has a push-pull in the center of it, which is really cool, and it really does give you some extra sounds. I don't know how to exactly describe them, because you still have your 5-way plus adding the extra tone there. I believe it adds an extra pickup in there. You can check the specs on it. To me, it's just about the sound. I love the sound of this guitar. I love the feel of it. The neck is gorgeous. Nice frets in it for a stock Strat, and probably it would be there's the little where you adjust the truss rod. I love that too. And the frets are still not my absolute favorites, but I definitely wouldn't change them until, unless I wear them out. To me, it's the weakest link on the guitar, and they're still pretty decent. But if they ever had to come out, there'd definitely be stainless steel ones put back in. I am a big believer in the stainless steel for sure. Now the machine heads, as you'll see on the back side, they have the locking machine heads. So there's nothing cheap about this guitar. It's actually the only Strat that I've ever played, and definitely the only one that I've ever owned, that I would not touch a thing on, except possibly the frets if they ever wear out. Other than that, it's a real piece of work, and I consider it a piece of art. All three of these, I guess I consider them pieces of art for me. Uh, I always say I'd rather have Van Halen's hanging on my wall than Van Gogh's. I thought that'd be a good line for Van Halen guitars, but and hopefully eventually that's another guitar I'd like to own. But unfortunately, I got so many now, and I'd love to own one of those too. But again, I'd like to have a higher end one, so it's going to be a while before I can. It's not right at the top of my list, even though Eddie Van Halen is definitely one of my favorite guitar players for his time, and was a big influence on me. That's why most of these guitars, or the other two for sure, have humbuckings in them, because I was experimenting with humbuckings when I first heard about Van Halen in I believe it was 1978, was the first concert that I saw him play, and they were promoting their second album at that time, and that was an amazing show. So that's a little bit of history of my Stratocasters. So basically, if you look at these, if you go back to 72, that's 50 years that I've had Stratocasters, and I've played them all that time. And for that amount of time, of course, they've been redone. So, but they are in really nice shape. And it amazes me, if those guitars are 50 years old, you know, they're going to last a lot longer than this. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I plan on doing lots more if everybody likes them. If you do like them, please subscribe, as I will try and do a lot more. Here's the machine heads that are lockable. Very nice machine heads. This really is a beautiful guitar. Thanks for watching. And my email address is also attached. So if you want any information about any of the pickups that I am using in these guitars, or any other information, by all means, give me an email, and maybe we can talk. And this is the first video I'm making of this series. I'm going to do some more on some of my other guitars that I've kept, and eventually I'd like to build it up to where I can do different types of videos. I've got lots of ideas, just it's a matter of time and money, and that's another thing why I'll never be a great guitar player, is because I love doing everything, and there's just not enough time in this life to do everything. Playing guitar is definitely one of my main things that I like doing, but I really think I should have been a builder, because I love modifying guitars. It's just that I no longer want to modify expensive guitars, especially if they can't be put back to stock. I tinker with a lot of lower end guitars, and I will put some of those on here for people to view and maybe get some ideas from. A couple of my favorite shows to watch, if you want other ones to watch, is the JHS show, or pedal show, and also the Trogley's guitar show. And there's another one too that I really have started watching. He's mainly about effects pedals. Darn, I'll try and find it and put it on the end of this video. Really well done, and I like anything to do with guitars. So that's my thoughts, is I'm going to start with these ones about my guitars, and then eventually I'm sure I'll end up buying and selling a few more guitars over the years. And I also love effects pedals, so I'm going to do a series on my guitars first, and then I'm going to do some different setups of my guitar stuff. And I am an effects nut, so, and I'm not saying that I can show anything as far as playing better guitar, but I do believe that I could definitely give some people some unique ideas about stacking different types of pedals and different arrangements, because I have quite a setup, which I will show. Like I said, it's going to be a while, because I've only got time to make so many videos, and I also make videos for other people for their products and their hobbies. So when you stop and think about it, you know, I have a passion for music, I have a passion for video making, I have a passion for photography, recording, and so many other things that aren't music oriented that nobody probably wants to hear about watching this video. So if you hear a bird cooing in the background, that's another one of my hobbies. I raise very specialized type pigeons, which I won't get into detail, but if you do want to see, I have a web page for them too. I'll leave a link with these videos if anybody ever does want to check the videos on the birds. And I love pushing that hobby too, and I even do all the, of course, the videos, the music, the everything. I'm a do-it-all kind of guy. Hoping to get a couple friends involved in this music project, because like I said, I've got lots of ideas to expand this as I go. And some of them are very interested too, because they are very interested in guitars, amps, effects, anything to do with music and recording also. So I've met so many people for the 30 years that I was in business, that I know some people that are really good in different aspects of the hobby and have made really good livings at it. But I won't do any name dropping today. They're all very, very talented in their own respect, especially when it comes to recording and guitar players. So thanks again for watching this video. Hope you enjoyed it. And if I can help you, drop me an email. Thanks again for watching.